I'd like to thank Eva and Mark Beeson, Victoria and Anthony, and the whole team at TarraWarra for your generous invitation. And it's an invitation which I take particular pleasure and honour in accepting, to speak on the very special occasion of the opening of this wonderful exhibition, which has been so beautifully curated by Julie Ewington. Congratulations, Julie. And thank you also to everyone for coming along today, especially Hewen and Bronwyn's family and her many friends. I too would first like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future. And I'd also particularly like to acknowledge the invaluable artistic and cultural legacy of Australia's Indigenous peoples, who over many thousands of years have engaged with the natural world and its forces through their art, and who have been sustainable stewards of this land in a way that us latecomers have yet to fully understand or embrace. I had the privilege and pleasure of working with Bronwyn for 20 years. Our paths came together when I joined Kristen Abraham's gallery in 1987, the same year that Bronwyn held her first exhibition at the gallery, and following her first solo exhibition with Rosalind Oxley in Sydney the year before. Back in 1977, Bronwyn had intended to study painting at Alexander Mackie College in Sydney, but an administrative error meant that she was accidentally enrolled in the sculpture course. It was a fortuitous event that began the career of one of Australia's most acclaimed and accomplished artists. Bronwyn's early sculptures, many of which you can see in the first room in there, were made from paper, cane and fiberglass. They resembled parts of fanciful sea creatures which had been cast up onto the shore and then left to dry and bleach in the sun, their cane bones, their cartilage structures eerily visible beneath their parchment-like paper skins. Bronwyn, the woman, was slight but strong, her appearance almost elfin-like, sometimes reserved and introspective. At other times, she bubbled over with joy and excitement. Bronwyn was always quietly determined and ambitious to execute her unique artistic vision. The fluid, sensual and sometimes vulnerable delicacy of form, which appears to be the very essence of Bronwyn's sculptures, often contrasts with the self-protective strength of the materials, the spikes of cane, the armoured mail, the barbed and spiked copper protrusions, and the sheer impenetrability of the fantastic and intricately woven surfaces. Bronwyn's sculptures can simultaneously seduce and repel. While engaging us with their allusions to nature and organic growth, they sometimes also cause us disquiet and discomfort. Bronwyn's own statements reflected these seemingly contradictory feelings. On the one hand, she was searching for the numinous and the metaphysical. She said, "I am trying to create life, not in the sense of beings, animals or plants or machines, but life in the sense of a kind of force, a presence, an energy in my objects that human beings can respond to on the level of soul or spirit." On the other hand, Bronwyn was in no doubt that her works could have a less benevolent meaning and impact. She stated on one occasion, "I haven't made an innocent artwork for a long time." Perhaps Bronwyn was alluding to the fact that nothing is without its dark side, and we should not let beauty and artistry hold us completely in their sway. Looks, after all, can be deceiving. The very process of creating sculpture was for Bronwyn a way of making the invisible visible, not only in the clear translation of idea into material form, but also in rendering the unseen forces behind nature in all their complex precision and unpredictable chaos, rendering them more accessible to our own sensory perceptions. Like Michelangelo discovering forms within his blocks of raw marble, Bronwyn's sculptures appeared like patterns discovered by casting iron filings over a magnetic field, tapping into the very laws of nature that determine the form and properties of all things. Bronwyn was the most organised and pragmatic artist I have ever dealt with. Her meticulous and at times obsessive attention to detail of every kind meant that nothing was ever left to chance. Bronwyn worked to a self-imposed, rigorous and demanding schedule. Her days followed a regimented routine in which working in the studio took up most of her waking hours. Hugh and Hook has poignantly described Bronwyn at work in her studio when he said, "My enduring image of Bronwyn at work is like this. She is sitting cross-legged on the floor, on a piece of foam rubber. Her work is on a low bench constructed of timber covered with fireproof bricks. By raising her eyes, she can see the studio across the lawn to the glass doors of the house, where I might be doing a tasting on the big dining room table. What happened in that studio I regard as some kind of fabulous, mysterious process in which bits of metal were transformed into beautiful objects full of wonderment. And the agent of that process was fire, delivered via a magic wand. It was a beautifully simple, pure, timeless process. Fire and metal, cutting and shaping, heating and melting, and then cooling and solidifying. What could be simpler, more truthful, or more elemental? Whenever she was happy and content, which was usually when she was working, she would say, "It feels like there's order in the universe." We are now living through fast-changing times, politically, socially, and ecologically. And it seems to many, including myself, that the order in the universe, which Bronwyn so keenly sought, is in danger of being torn apart, not by the forces of nature, but by the actions of humankind itself. Whether we have the capacity to respond to these changes is a story that will unfold over coming years and decades. However we fare, I have no doubt that art, in all its forms, will continue to provide us with some of the insight, imagination, and humanity that we will definitely need if we are to meet these momentous challenges. The sculptures in this wonderful and uplifting exhibition remain as an enduring and precious legacy to an exceptional artist and much-loved woman who strived to bring structure and order to her art and to her life. It is an inspiring tribute to a strong and unique visionary, Bronwyn Oliver. Thank you.